Hey there, YouTube. It's been a long time since I've been in Codesters. For those of you fresh to this interesting website, you get to program, set up an account, and then you get to program in Python, but get a lot of sprite action, including sucking sprites as pictures over the internet. So you can put in any URL, and this is how I do my slideshow. And this is from a few summers ago. We talked about electrical grids and world game and all this kind of stuff, but in the context of learning Python. So these would just be kids, right? They wouldn't be necessarily grown-ups. Now that's not all of Europe. That's just a picture of Germany. We're just talking about electrical, not gas. This is a while back now, this course. And yet it's all in the news now. So students who were with me then might be thinking back to this. And in the meantime, they have maybe learned Python because they've had enough time in between to keep up. And this is where we'd be now, more like high school, because that was like middle school. And if you're just joining us, what I've been doing is using REPL IT, which you can start in for free and go a long way with for free. But we want them to receive, big grants and all kinds of like, hey, let's get this nation back on track, whatever nation that is, because you've got all kinds of online languages here. Python, Clojure. I'm having trouble with the Clojure, but so that's a tough one. I mean, getting it to run. But as far as Python, Julia, we've had a good experience with those. And you can bring all your markdown skills into play to do the notes for teachers or the notes for students. I've got instructions here. And here we're playing with Q vectors. And what we're playing with is this picture here, this idea. I'm going to pour out all these spheres. These are closest packed balls in the CCP arrangement in a tetrahedron. I'm going to pour them into a cube, hopefully not spilling a bunch. That's a little bit tricky, actually. Maybe this is a bad idea to use such a small container. Let's do it. Let's just go for it. Okay, I dropped a couple. I dropped one. I'll find out later. I see it down there, I think. Because I do want to fill this back up again after the demo. Now let's take some of my coffee and pour it in. Not get anything on my keyboard, except I did a little bit. So I'll mop that up with my mask. I don't want water in my Mac Pro. It's an old one, by the way. Okay, I think we're safe enough. Oh, but now I'm changing all my source code up there. So you see how one thing leads to another. This is what we call markdown. And by, learning, you've probably learned it already, right? Because it's part of high school now. And when I say high school, I also mean andragogy is at play, and we're talking to adults here because in this channel, you always need high school from time to time. Because when you went to high school, they didn't have any of this stuff, right? So you have to catch up. I know people like Bernie Sanders and all that are always talking about free college, but I'm saying that's not what we need. We need to get paid to study and study hard because we're way behind, basically. And if you think studying isn't work, right, just try to learn Spanish or something. Okay, so I'm speaking to you from the Republic of Cascadia. That's somewhat tongue-in-cheek. It's for tourists, right? So, and psychologically, we can think of ourselves as a nation, but we don't go to all the trouble to become a nation, right? That's a lot of bureaucracy. We don't really need it. Congratulations to William Shatner. If you saw my last video, This is what I was focused on, and kind of why I'm making my video early this week is, yay, Star Trek guy, he made it, round trip. Now, where to find me? Look for me on Quora is a good place, and I answer a lot of Python questions. But you can see, okay, what was I going to do with that coffee? You can see, oh, there's still a ball floating in it, that I have a geometric focus, right? And as you tilt this tetrahedron, you will agree that the amount of liquid in it doesn't change, right? But how much is that? What if we called the coffee that's in there now a unit of volume, and then I poured in more coffee, which I will do, but from further back, so it doesn't actually, forget it. We don't need more coffee. Just think about how it's the same amount, and think about a product of the three edges as giving the volume. Simply multiply this times this times this. Would that work? And the volume, again, is the liquid volume, right? And that's what we're doing here with the Q vectors. For example, in scenario 3 here, I create 3 vectors from the corner of this tetrahedron, the bottom. Let's call it the apex, but at the bottom. So what do you call an apex that's not at the top? The reverse apex, not the base. The base is the top here. So turn your tetrahedron over, and think of these 3 rays coming out as like XYZ rays with the cube, right? With the cube, we splay the 3 vectors, I, J, K, further apart. They're 90 degrees relative to each other, right? And then we do vector addition, which includes inverting vectors, which is a kind of rotation. And in same games here, same games, but we have this quadray coordinate system, which are actually the 4 unit vectors, except they're not unit, from the 4 basis vectors from the center of this tetrahedron. That's the quadrays. But with vector sums, you can make quadrays go that way. Like this is 2101, 2110, and 2011 are the 3 from this tip. Those are also unit in length. Those are unit. So then it's just a matter of testing and seeing if it works with the volume, except what we use for a volume formula. There I've got the Gerald de Jong volume formula going. And you might say, none of this looks at all like high school, or it kind of does. Like I'm sort of learning Python on the side on my own, and I've got math going, and I do have this technology somewhere. That's what you're thinking to yourself. And you could install Jupyter Notebooks and Jupyter Lab if you wished. It's all there and it's all free. It's just, I think you'll agree that there are not many teachers like me out there. So this is esoteric, I have to say, by definition. Okay, so we use the quadrays to go up the 3 edges of a tetrahedron, close the lid, and then ask ourselves, what's the volume? But the volume is in terms of unit tetrahedron, just like when we use the triangle to do area, right? And I'm not the first or the last to share this meme, right? This is a meme that's been going. Wayne Phillips, right? In Canberra, Australia, he's really into this. But I'm just wanting to show the pictures in question here. Actually, those aren't the pictures. It's an email to Dick Fishbeck from yesterday, where I can find it all in one email. So if you're new to this channel, we talk a lot about a philosophy in American Transcendentalist tradition, you could say, that still has a lot of adherence, you could say. So we're still moving ahead with sort of an invisible college, you could call it. And we're kind of underground in a sort of way, but not really. We're easy to find once you know what you're looking for. So there we go with the triangles. That's how we do it with the triangles. Each one of those is what we call a unit of area, right? And then we do the exact same thing with the tetrahedron like I was showing you, right? So I'm going to drink this coffee, kind of ritual. Oh gosh, there's a ball in there. It's not blood. But it is, I'm saying we're not a cult really. But you will think that sometimes just because so few people are into any of this mathematics, and yet it's high school level. And those who are jumping in, I would say many of them are saying, come on in, the water's fine. Like, you'll learn a lot. Unit testing is going on. This is all on REPL IT. You can join one of my teams. I'll see you in cyberspace.